to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call a police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
the struggle with ASU strike.
The Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.
It's a great Monday. Thank you, everyone, for joining us here on Global Television. This is Abuja, the capital of Nigeria. I am Uyi Agmofwegwe, welcoming you to Global Morning today on behalf of myself and my colleague, Jumaya Mansen.
Hi, Uyi. How are you doing today?
Well, I'm always a grateful man.
Yes, it is a beautiful Monday morning,
Right,
and the second day of the week. And, well, we're here again to do what we know how to do best.
Which is a privilege.
Which is a privilege. We should be thankful, despite the hustle and bustle that is ongoing when it comes to fuel. And you said I was going to give my testimony, okay?
Are you ready, yeah?
I'm ready to give my testimony, Uyi, but before then, I have to formally introduce myself. I am Jumai Manson, and it's great to be here before I give my testimony on the fuel issue.
All right. The fuel is a big conversation in Nigeria right now, no doubt about that.
Yes, it is.
I mean, we've seen how this weekend expectations didn't come through as we had been told. But we're optimistic that things are looking up now, at least following the meeting called by the vice president a few days ago. The only challenge now is the Dangote guys are now saying, look, I mean, importers are saying, that's the marketers themselves are saying, we might have to resort to imports. Because the talk between the Dangote refinery and the NNPC is dragging. And for how long are we going to continue to wait for this talk to happen and for a resolution to be reached? Therefore, we may have to resort to importing fuel, which is where we've been coming from. I'm not sure Nigerians are surprised to hear that. No, but there's a bit of shame that comes with it, because this is one refinery a lot of people would have thought would be a game changer. But apparently that hasn't happened just yet. But in all, Nigerians must continue to stay optimistic, because we realize that hope is ultimately our most valuable resource at this time.
Yes, it is. It's just unfortunate where we found ourselves in Nigeria, but we hope things get better with the efforts of the government. Like I said, I know about efforts, but we need action at the same time, which is very necessary at this point. Like for my testimony, of course, filling stations were selling fuel, but not it didn't come really cheap. I bought at 900 and something plus.
But there was some ease.
But there was some ease. I could drive in, like I stayed max 4 minutes because I was on my way to church.
I promise you, I told you.
Oh, please. But I said there'll be fuel, but at what cost? So the testimony is at least now I have fuel, but at the same time, at what cost? 900 and something. Normally, if you get fuel of like 30, 40,000, it will get to a certain point. But it, like the gauge didn't really move. It was just, I was like, are you kidding me right now? It just passed that E. I was like, eh? Are you kidding me? But at least we've gotten fuel, but at what cost? But we hope something is done ASAP, because this would affect a lot of things, especially when it comes to commodities, transportation, businesses. A lot of people cannot afford this at like the laxity that you can go get. Okay, there's a very important client or a very important customer. Let me quickly fuel up my my gen, and you know it's not going to be as easy as that. It's going to affect a lot of things. So we pray.
Okay, that things become easier and better
ASAP as soon as possible.
When you mentioned 900, I mean, pump price, it just struck my mind how it felt for people who bought for as high as 1,200.
A friend of mine bought 1.4.
I had 1.4 in a city or two in this country. You know, I mean, that was the peak of it, as they say in economics, all-time high in terms of pump price of fuel. True. But we hope it doesn't get any worse than that.
We pray.
That things begin to look up while the price continues to plummet. But that will happen, experts are arguing, if the Dangote refinery is allowed to do what it was established to do in the first instance. At least we're not talking about Kabbalah at this point much.
No, we're not.
At least maybe we're pretending about it, but we're now more focused about, okay, what should happen between the Dangote refinery and the NNPC? And then we have the issue of price resolved
Very
all of the
importantly.
tankers, we are told, waiting, hundreds of them to move products.
True.
Are allowed to do that. And then we begin to see a Nigeria that really works for the people, because fuel is the driving force of everything else.
And I think we should all try and understand, whether it's Dangote Refinery, the NNPC, and all of that, they should work together for the benefit. It's just for one cause. The Nigerians who are involved in this matter, it's not easy. Lives are not working like it used to. A lot of people are going through a lot of hardship. I think we should talk about the hardship, which is very, very important. And I wanted to add, like some of where you go into these filling stations, you'll be shocked what these attendants, what they do. Sometimes I have been part of the, I fell into that category where whereby you buy a particular amount of oil and you don't get what you want, your value worth for that money. So
you get short-changed.
You get short-changed. So it's better. Really, it's so wrong that I have to come down from the car and watch the meter as it runs, because it's just unfortunate what some of these attendants do. I do not know whether it's a policy for filling stations that you have to short-change customers when they are paying hard.
Or whether it's just some criminal elements
which I know
at these
it is.
service stations who are perpetrating this kind of crime.
And
right?
it's just unfortunate that two attendants did the same thing. I was like, how can you? And like, this is the same amount of fuel I bought at the same rate, and then it's different. So what? And this is where the gauge was, and I saw it because I wanted to, like, do a test, experiments to know what's really happening. But I realized some of these attendants are very funny in filling stations. So it is wise that at the comfort of your own, when you are in the car, please come down and check the meter. Be sure you're standing with them, because some of them will try to distract you. Like what someone did, tried to distract me, talking with me, and this other friend was just perpetrating the crime. It's just unfortunate where we found ourselves in Nigeria. People are not making things easier, but making it harder for individuals. It's just unfortunate.
That apparently shows that there's a human element in all of this. So it's not just a matter of whether the Dangote Refinery takes off or not, or whether the NNPCL
Very true.
plays its role. It means that as citizens, everyday people, there are those of us who are also trying to, as it were, throw the other person under the bus.
True.
Fact of the matter is, we understand it's biting for most people, including households, and hopefully the government also understands that from top to bottom. But you see, the sky is broad enough for all the birds to fly.
Yes, it is.
Without having to collide into themselves. So let's take it one day at a time. These two will pass. I mean, right from when I was in elementary school, do you mind, I have known that there's something called fuel scarcity, whether it was organic or artificial, all right? But you see, all of those ones also passed, and this is going to follow that same route, no doubt about it. But let's not kill ourselves, all right, before we move to the next phase, which we believe and are hopeful will definitely be better. Now, we didn't want to start the program this morning with a piece of sad news, which was something that happened yesterday in Niger State. A tanker carrying fuel, said to collide into another truck, a heavy-duty truck, apparently carrying cattle. It was disastrous, to put it mildly. Dozens of people lost their lives. Yes, and then, of course, several cows also died. Some people will say, why are you mentioning cows? Well, of course, you won't get the perspective until you understand that that is big business for some people. All right, just the way you are into real estate, for example, the way you are into banking and finance, the way you are into buying and selling, or what kind of business, whatever kind of business you do that is legitimate and is big for you. That's the same way cattle business is big for some people.
Yes, it is.
I mean, if you follow the last Salah, for example, I have Muslim friends. I know what they told me about the price of ram. That was just ram, not even cow. So if you lose 10 cows, full-grown cows, 10, you know what you have lost as somebody who is into herding.
Very true.
All right, and now we're told dozens of those cows died on the spot, burnt, because of how dastardly the accident was. You see, it just goes to show that we must rethink our transportation system in this country.
It's very important.
There are some things, Juma, that must not be conveyed on the roads.
Really?
All right, so the question is, do we have real capacity to deal with all of these issues? These are practical problems, and common sense demands that we understand they demand or require practical solutions as well.
But
this is 2024.
This is 2024. For me, it's not how you pass all of these commodities. We're looking at the roads. If the roads were really, really good, do you think there would have been a collision? I'm not talking about maybe the length or the width or how it is, but the roads, first of all, we have to start, like you said, we have to look inwards. It's very important that we understand the implications of all of these things. we forget that we're humans and we have lives. Some of these individuals in authority need to sit back and really nip it in the bud what the problem really is. It's just unfortunate a lot of people lost their lives. It's just unfortunate that so many people lost millions of naira when it comes to their business. But I think it starts with individuals who are in the system that understand that the roads were bad, means of transportation, very importantly. Haven't you seen a heavy-duty truck carrying, there's this I've forgotten what they call it. It's really big. It's really heavy. It's iron that they put on their trucks. When you go to this airport, not airports, the ports, they put all of these. It's very big.
Right. Do you see the containers?
Thank you very much. The container. And then do you know, I had to watch, I was driving in Lagos with my dad, and then I had to just really look at it. There are some that have this lock-in. There's a lock-in in the four sides. One, you lock it in for the container to stand in place.
Just to stay in place.
But some people, some of these individuals do not lock
They take
chances.
chances.
And that is why you hear cases of
Container falling over, killing somebody just beneath the bridge,
did you just say somebody?
Destroying vehicles, traders on the roadside are losing their lives.
Exactly. They don't take precautionary measures because we're always in a hurry. We want it the fast.
We want to cut costs.
We want to cut
at the detriment of lives.
At the detriment of lives. Killing individuals who are breadwinners, fathers. It's just unfortunate when you see all of these things. Well, I pray we stop cutting costs and do the needful. There's a point that you can actually do the needful and you can have enough for yourself. I think it's just greed, and I think people should get over it.
I don't think we're even bothered about enough right now as human beings, and particularly as Nigerians. I think it's even now more about greed. And the problem with greed is there's never enough. It doesn't have an elastic end. It's just more like an endless road, right? Thing is, you see, government is in place for a reason, Jumai. We can self-regulate, maybe using conscience, using common sense, using the education that we've got. When I mean education, I'm not just talking about 4 walls of university, because that's a conversation for another day. But I'm talking about bringing our humanity to bear in the way we practice in our businesses, in our professions, and all the other things we do on a day-to-day basis, all right? To change the narrative for the better, to add value in ways that are practically measurable. But then government is the superstructure, right? What does that mean? Government is the parents, so to speak, of society. Government must take responsibility for regulatory frameworks, monitoring, evaluation, supervision. Government must understand stick and carrot approach to how things are done. What does that mean? When people have done the right thing, you've got to commend them. You've got to openly reward them. I'm not talking about giving them a bag of money. And I'm saying let the world know that they've done the right thing and they are a sterling example. However, conversely, when they've done something wrong as well, let the punishment be made public, whether it's 1 year, jail time you're giving them, whether it's community service of 1 week you're giving them, suspension, whatever it is. People must know that we get rewarded when we do the right thing. We also get punished when we do the wrong thing. Without biases of who is from your place, who is in your religion, who is from your region, who is your relative, who you like, who you don't like. Those primordial considerations, we must remove them. For example, a woman came out just last year, in fact, started in 2022, all right, and talking about how her daughter, who was not just a breadwinner, but the eye of the family, her only child lost her life. What was her offense? She had closed from work. She was working with one of the consultants at the airport in Lagos. She had closed from work. She was coming back home with her colleague, and then they're inside this vehicle. One thing leads to another. A container falls off. This was somewhere around Sorolere, that area, the axis of Lagos. And the next thing you know is container falls over from just on top of the bridge. And then the next thing you know is that's how she loses her life. That's just one of several cases. So the question is, having encountered all of this, having recorded all of these very unpleasant incidences, what have we done between then and now? Whether it's the Lagos State government where this particular incident happened, or is the federal government? What happened to that driver? What happened to that company? What happened to that vehicle, right? Did they get punished? Did anybody go to courts? Did anybody get called to answer? You see, accountability is also key. It's not enough for you to be governor, for you to be local government chairman, for you to be MD, for you to be supervisor, head of transportation, head of this, head of that. Are you leading by example? Are people called to books? Are they brought to book when something goes wrong? there must be somebody held accountable. And that's why you see people always fight government at all levels. They say, when this happened, nobody was held accountable. This money was made for healthcare. Nobody was held accountable. No health infrastructure was put in place. Nothing to show for the money that was budgeted. Look at the issue of security right from the days of former President Jonathan. We are still having that conversation till today. And this man left office almost a decade ago. We're still talking about what happened to NSA funding $2.1 billion here and there. And the people who were implicated in that scheme, as I'd like to call it, are still moving free in this country.
Exactly.
Some of them are living abroad.
Exactly.
Their children are schooling in Ivy League colleges. All right. And nobody is saying what has happened. Of course, that's just one of many cases. But again, long and short of the story is, we've lived in denial too long. That's the point. Yeah, we must tell ourselves the truth. We must man up. As Americans will say, we must find the courage. Otherwise, we are going to keep having this conversation without any results.
I think one of the reasons why we still go back and forth is because we always sweep all of these things under the rug.
And lie to ourselves.
Exactly. And we live in denial. And we tell ourselves, oh, it's one of these things. Or you think Nigerians, we are so dumb that we'll forget at the same time. And of course, you know, internet never forgets, the media never forgets. But the thing is, the way once an incident happens, the way we take it, that 1, 2, 3 days, okay, someone has been caught for embezzlement, he's having court proceedings and all of that. And then the next thing you know, check in 2 weeks. 2 weeks is too far. Like the next week, everything is done and dusted. Nothing happens.
Nigerians move on.
And we move on from it because guess what? That is the way it is. That is the pattern in which we follow, and that is it. And it has always been like that. No measures are in place. No one is held accountable. Everyone just moves as if all is okay, living in denial, like you mentioned. It's really unfortunate. We need to get it right. We need to, like I always use the word, nip it in the bud, because it's very important that we check the root cause of issues that are surrounding us. If we don't do it, then we'll just continue going back and forth with the same problems erupting every single time.
All right, I think it's time to step on our brakes here on the program so we don't keep pumping gas. All right. Taking a break now, everyone. When we return, we'll bring you big headlines. It's a Monday, remember, from across our national dailies. Do stay with us. Morning is your ultimate destination for engaging political and economic matters. I am Uyi Agmofrebe.
And don't forget to include social discussions. Tune in every weekdays from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. I am Queen Agaba.
For insightful breakfast ideas, business summaries, sports highlights, international and local news perspective, I am Anthony Momodu.
Don't miss the in-depth analysis of current and political issues by the Global Morning team and experts. I am Jumai Manson.
Catch Global Morning here on Global Television. Get in on the action. I am Edikan Michael.
We are
the Global Morning team.
All right, time to turn to the papers for you quickly. Turns out we're beginning with the Daily Independent, real quick. The first one here, just above the nameplate, top left corner. Sarab gives Tinubu ultimatum to reverse petrol price hike. I know some people are saying, well, who knows, will the president or the government listen to Sarab this time? Sarab has a plethora of issues they've raised with the government over time. But we'll see how this one pans out in particular. Kwankwaso is inconsequential in Nigerian national politics. That's the People's Democratic Party there speaking. Just yesterday, Kwankwaso had said that he would win the 2027 election as president. Well, 2027, by the way, is barely 4 years, 3 years from here in terms of determining the outcome of election. Right, so we see how that will pan out. But we have some other ones here. Left end of the paper, front page, the Daily Independent. APC 9 years worse than PDP 16 years. Ex-APC national vice chair. They're talking is on page 29. That's where you find details. Niger government mourns as multiple accidents claim 48 persons. It's quite sad. Juma and I talked about this in passing a while ago. A man drowns in Jigawa River. You have that story and its details on page 6. How lack of cargo aircraft retards industry growth by operators. President Tibun re-elected in a landslide in gas-rich Algeria. ICPC rallies 36 states AGs, that's attorney generals, stakeholders against corruption. Well, it's a brilliant move, no doubts. VAT fuel price hike, blazing inferno that may consume Nigerians. That's according to former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. He has advised President Bola Tinubu to not listen to Bretton Woods institutions like IMF and the World Bank. He says they will continue to create problems for Nigeria and her economy. So he says VAT's fuel price hike, a blazing inferno that may consume Nigerians, and we believe that will not happen. What's more, there's a rider with that story, says increases destined to deepen cost of living crisis. And then at the foot of it, I'm not barren, Obaseki's wife replies Oshomale. You know, politics in Edo State has been heating up in the last few weeks in particular for obvious reasons. Election in that state, as of today, is just about 12 days away, right? So,
yes, it is.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, you find all the actors trying to throw in, their heart in the ring, and everybody is so, as it were, sort of embedded in the race, you know, and rhetorics are just heating up. Some of them don't even want to accept their bounds. One person says one thing, gets the other person furious, gets on the other person's last nerve, and the next thing you know is the other person naturally just grows the tendency to want to retaliate.
Very true.
And that's what we are today. So you're wondering, how did we move away from campaign into I'm not barren?
Exactly.
Well, I think our viewers should read up details because some of these things are unprintable.
Really, really.
All right, let's turn to our next paper for you, and Juma has that paper.
Yes, our next paper is the Daily Sun. Now, beside the nameplate, Daily Sun, it says, Clark Obi Osehome push for Ayau's immortalization. And then below the template, we have sorrow, tears as petrol tanker wreaks havoc. And there are 2 riders there, over 30 persons, 50 cows burned to death in Niger. 3 die, many injured in Lagos accident. Unfortunate incident there, like you mentioned, we spoke about it. And below all of that, hike in food, fuel, electricity prices unbearable, APC chieftain tells Tinubu. And you can find that on page 27 and 28 of the Daily Sun. Below the Daily Sun, we have Dangote's petrol pricing sparks confusion, push back. PDP dead, says Kwankwaso. And you can find all of these stories on the Daily Sun. Just go out and pick your the copy of your paper there. Now, looking at this particular story that says Dangote's petrol pricing sparks confusion, pushback. I'm trying to understand what that really means, as in the confusion of the back and forth, pushback. There's this reverse mechanism of he's waiting to see what actually plays out, or what's happening in that whole sector.
I think it's quite a number of factors, but one of the most prominent ones and one of the ones most talked about is how that there are vested interests who may not see their interests being served or protected with the Dangote refinery coming on stream. So even long before now, we are told there have been efforts, very frantic, coordinated efforts to ensure that this refinery doesn't get off the ground. But the man has said that, look, this is one big project for him. And if you notice, Joma, the last few weeks, Dangote, the man behind his whole vision, hardly talks about anything else. Nobody's talking about Dangote's other areas of investment. It is just basically the refinery. So that shows you how much it means to him. Something that we understand has cost between $18.5 and $20 billion. That's no child's play.
That's no child's play. That's a lot of money, a lot of investments, a lot of, I'm sure, borrowings. In quotes.
Of course, some loans from the CBI, and that's in public domain. It's not a secret.
Exactly. So you can imagine that this, and the confusion, the dates, as we'll be going back and forth with the dates. We
several postponements.
I was pumped up to see, oh my goodness, at least this is something that will cut costs. Oh goodness, we have someone, but this back and forth. But I hope this whole thing just comes to an end, and there is a situation that's just amends all of these things. And then the next is the Daily Sun. It's over to you.
All right, let's look at Daily Trust everyone this morning. We'll begin with the big story. Joma already read something along this line a while ago from the Daily Sun. It says 48 people, 50 cows killed in Niger Road accident. The writer says residents blame speed, bad roads, two very unfortunate factors. OPay Money Point users kick as FG imposes electronic levy. That story broke over the weekend. Banks colluding with states to bypass fiscal law, as according to Financial Regulatory Council, FRC. We spent 30,000 naira daily to feed our 9 new babies. Father, this story went viral recently, but that's a lot of money. If you have to spend 30,000 naira to feed 9 children, all right, in a month, you know what that comes to. All right, so that was almost $1 million. 196 soldiers resigned to proceed on terminal leave November 1. Some reports says at least 1,000 of them have resigned the last few years. What's the reason? Well, read up details for yourself when you pick up a copy of today's issue of the Daily Trust newspaper. A kidnapped Borno judge regains freedom after 2 months. Now, the agony is better imagined than experienced. Deaths by air pollution more than those of malaria, HIV. That's minister. That should worry us a lot. That should really worry us. Okay. And then at the foot of the front page, we are owed 30 months allowances. Border security personnel cry out. There are 3 writers to the story. They cry overstay at stations. We are reviewing the process, customs, ad hoc arrangements over. You see, institutions must function as institutions. It's embarrassing when you hear some stories coming out of how institutions conduct themselves. If people are not paid, given that, assuming this is true, if people are not paid their allowances for 30 months, Juma, that's almost 3 years. Or at least we know that's 2.5 years. That's a long time. Even if the allowances are just supposed to be broken into 10,000 naira block every month, it's a whole lot of money. And most of these officers who man these borders, they have families. Even those who don't have immediate family, they have people who look up to them for support of some kind, right? So, and they are working. Now, in Nigeria especially, nothing hurts more than you working. People see you go to work every other day, and then they see that you're living from hand to mouth. They see that you still have to scratch your skin to do basic things of life. That in itself has its own psychological and emotionally impacts, yes, which is very adverse on your health and even your image as a person.
It is unfortunate, but like I said, this is Nigeria in which we found ourselves, and some individuals that are struggling to actually survive, to stay afloat despite all of these things.
They have
to them. And that's why when you read captions like check on your friends, check on family members, they might not say anything. They might just keep a smile to just brace everything all in. Mental health is very important. And all of these things, that individuals have suicidal thoughts. I read, was it last month, about a woman who just took all her children to the police station, went back home, committed suicide because she was done. It was. I think it was heartbreaking for her to see her kids not been able to eat, crying all the time, nothing she could do. She was just, it's just unfortunate.
It is.
But at the same time, that's why I keep hammering on support systems, how it doesn't matter what we're going through as Nigerians. You and I can make things better. There's some things I can actually tell you, don't worry, it's fine, everything's going to give words of encouragement. Don't embezzle me or try to outsmart me or try to do something. I told you about my incident, the incident that happened to me. It's just unfortunate that people just think of various ways just to cause more harm than good.
Exploit others.
Exploiting others, like really, seriously, are you kidding me right now? It's just unfortunate. I just pray that everything just, at last, the Pigeon Palace, we go there all right.
We will. I think Nigerians have proven that more than 1,000 times. They are not done proving it.
Exactly.
Joma is going to lead with the leadership newspaper next.
Yes, I will. And above the template of the leadership, it says, tanker explosion kills 48 persons, 50 cows in Nigeria. We've been talking about that because it's a very unfortunate incident that happened over the weekend. And still above the nameplate of the leadership newspaper, it says, pump price probe NNPCL now. Surab tells Tinubu. And you can get more information on page 28 of the leadership newspaper. Now below all of that, we have Naira devaluation, subsidy removal, cripple manufacturers. And the Star Story there says, Sambo, Dambazao, others join Northern Democrats. And I was looking at this particular illustration down here. It says, poverty, ignorance boosting organ trafficking in Nigeria. And there is a way it was spread. It says 651 in Nigeria kidneys were illegally transplanted from Nigeria between 2015 and 2020. That's a lot, That's a lot. And it says $1.7 billion organ trade generates 840 million and $1.7 billion globally. 840 million dollars and $1.7 billion globally. Now, 50,000 naira in Nigeria, young girls sell their eggs for 88.
For as little as 50,000
naira, they sell their eggs. And you see, the implication in all of this, you do not know the future. You do not know what will happen if you be able to give birth at the long run for 50,000 naira. That's it's absurd. It's unfortunate. And it says here, $30,000 kidney payments range from a few $100 in developing countries to $20,000 to $30,000 in developed nations. And it says 129,681 in 2020 alone. 129,681 organs were transplanted globally. This is a lot. Seriously,
It is.
This is what some individuals have found. This is a business. Do you know that?
Well, I don't even want to say it's a business. Given the infographics that we see right now, it's an industry. It's bigger than a business, an industry, right?
Yeah,
and it looks more like, you have the internet, you have the web, then you have the dark web.
Yeah.
The dark web is where all the unimaginable, illegitimate things, criminal activities happen. This is pretty much like that. There's a standard procedure, for example, for acquiring, so to speak, I use that advisedly, vitals like kidneys, liver, lungs, and what have you. I've had a cousin that had a lung-related issue and all of that. But the point is, how there's a black market approach to it. I think that's what should worry us, which is what these infographics are painting for us to understand. I mean, the numbers are clear. As they say, numbers don't lie. All right, so if you look at that, it shows that there's something happening, not just in Nigeria, not just on the continent of Africa, but on a global scale.
True.
That the world must pay attention to. For example, in the US, I understand that if a patient needs kidney, there's a queue. You need to join that queue.
Very true.
So it gets to your turn. Even if you're the president, it gets to your turn. I mean, look at what happened to our own Senator Ike Ekweremadu.
Exactly.
That's an example that readily comes to mind. The man is doing 10 years now in the UK.
Yes, he is.
His wife is also suffering similar fates. And a doctor, a Nigerian doctor based in the UK, who the law
was part of this.
Was part of the whole scheme. Yes, people have said there's a human angle to it. The man, I mean, this is just a father who was, as expected, desperate to save the life of his beloved daughter, which is totally understandable. But you see, the law is blind to some of these things, right? That should make us sit back and ask ourselves, beyond the Ike Ekweremadu narrative, what do we need to get right? Yes, this is a matter of life and death for most people. We can't take that away. Go to all the federal medical centers, all the teaching hospitals, general hospitals, and even private clinics spread across this country today, Jumai. This morning, you will begin to have a clearer picture of how many people have their lives hanging on a thin line.
On a thread.
Because of kidney in particular. But what can you do? Is dialysis after dialysis after dialysis. I mean, you need to know how much it costs to do dialysis. A lot of families can't even afford it anymore. So that in itself is already an existential problem. But in all, we must always find a way as human beings to fix the broken world in which we live. The world is a broken place. We can't lie to ourselves about it.
The world is a broken... I take that piece, what you just said. The world is a broken a place where we find ourselves. It's just unfortunate that these things happen, but these are all factors of life.
Right.
This is where we've actually found ourselves. But they're right measures to take,
Of course.
We just don't take it by force. So some people actually take it by force. That's where you see all these, in quotes and unquote, these ritualists. This is where they actually make their money. They kidnap victims.
The money ritual thing and kidnapping and all sorts of crimes.
Exactly. So this is a very serious issue. Let's not just go into it. I think it's bigger than what we think or we're looking at. There's a cabal around these, this particular...
Like a syndicate.
Thank you. There's like a syndicate. It's just unfortunate. So will you be walking us through the next paper, please?
All right. So let's take a look at our next paper for you. And that would be the New Telegraph. All right. We begin with the big story here on the New Telegraph for you. Stifling FX orders. Anxiety heightens for BP diabetes patients as drug prices rise 1,000%. I mean, you just can't imagine. All right. What's more, just for perspective, it means a piece of drug that used to cost 100 naira will now be sold for as much as 1,000 naira. That's what it means. So imagine the margin.
So you can imagine a lot of people. How many people were able to afford these drugs?
So what you're paying for at 100 naira is just shooting all the way to 1,000. And this is not something that is a one-off purchase.
No, it's not.
It's something you buy again and again. So your purchase is recurrent.
Don't forget that it's an everyday affair when it comes to these drugs.
Of course. Somebody has to stay alive. Above the big story, economic sabotage. Senate postpones public hearing. Disquiet over reported extension of IGP's tenure. That's another issue of very huge controversy. Some people are now saying that the president has extended IGP Kayode Egbetonkun's tenure by 3 years. But others are saying, well, we are still watching to see how this pans out. But as it stands today, one thing we know for sure is that the man is still in office, and it's the IGP. 2027 presidency, Kwankwaso inconsequential in Nigeria's politics, PDP. All right, let's take it down a little. Atiku, VAT fuel price hike will worsen cost of living crisis. That goes without saying. Economic hardship, APC mild reduction in staff work days. Lagos State already has started that since last year. At the point, it was a 3-day work week. Some states are now doing 4-day work week. Some are now allowing you to work from home. Except for those whose duties require that they must be physically present at work. All right, Niger, 48 burnt to death as fuel-laden tanker trailer collide. At the foot of the paper, It says study links prenatal fish intake to lower autism risk. This is the part that I enjoy when it comes to the New Telegraph every other day. But let's take it a notch higher above the nameplates. Sugar consumers to pay more as value of imports drop to 99.6 billion naira. So you've got to have, that's one more reason people should cut down their sugar intake, because they're saying that consumers of sugar will have to pay more. Hopefully they were not talking to Juma when this news came.
Look at the smile on my face, because I have a sweet tooth when it comes. They
So you will pay more for your sweet tooth?
They should stop it. Pay more.
I hope
Why?
they do.
Don't worry, we'll get by. This is a habit that I'm trying to cut, but I'll get
with more
by.
effort, you will win.
I'm trying.
Yes, you will win. All right, let's look at the last headline for you, still on the New Telegraph. It says H1 2024, that's the first half of 2024, 7 banks' personnel expenses rise by 90.2% to 374.73 billion. Naira. That's what we're leaving it with the New Telegraph for you this morning. Joma will walk us through the Daily Times.
I think we're quickly going to go on a very quick break. But let's just quickly go on a very quick break, and then when we return, the newspaper segment continues. Stay tuned.
You didn't call your guest.
You're welcome back from that very short break. Back to the newspaper review segment now, and we'll continue with the Daily Times. Now, above the nameplate of the Daily Times, it says, soldiers at liberty to resign, says Army. Rejects claims of mass resignation. And you have to go out and get Daily Times to get more info on that news. Now, the Star story there says, planned VAT increase. Tinubu's government will continue to set Nigerians on fire. And that is the former Vice President, Atiku Abubakar, saying that. You can find that on page 40. And the writer there says, urges President, his advisors, to redirect efforts towards crafting sustainable solutions to systematic shocks affecting the economy. And here it says, SEC warns against capital market infractions to commence enforcement. And you can find that on page 4. Now over now to NDLEA intercepts UK Eurobond cocaine uploads in Lagos. And you can find that on page 20. Rising prices shrink sales for SMEs, manufacturers amid high inflation. And that big story there is on page 19. Below the foot of the Daily Times, Surap to Tinubu reverse fuel price hike immediately, probe NNPCL. And of course, that same story of the tragedy that happened over the weekend. Petrol tanker explodes in Niger, 48 persons roasted. Unfortunate incident there that happened, and we cannot stop talking about it. We really
Incidentally, it's replicated across the dailies.
Yes, it is
today because of.
Yes, it is.
Yes, the nature of the story. I'm sure that's what will take us to the Guardian.
Yes.
Newspaper next. All right, let's turn to the Guardian for you. Big story here says back to school. Parents groan as fares spike by over 70% amid dropout concerns. We understand there are states now, including Edo, now saying that we have to wait. We are not resuming yet because of the field.
Lokoja also.
Kogi is doing the same.
Kogi, yes.
Right. So that shows you. I mean, just gives you an insight into how biting it is in this country at the moment. All right. Then we have a few other headlines here. Ajayi Edema chid Ayedatiwa over appointment of 344 SSAs, SAs, and amid economic hardship. Well, we have seen the former governor that once hired 2,000 SAs. We saw a serving governor who also hired about 1,000. So maybe 344 should not surprise us much.
No, we shouldn't.
Right, because a higher bar has been set.
Yes.
Atiku Huriwa fled Tinubu's plan to raise VAT, warn of devastating consequences. Reverse petrol pump price, Serap APC chief tell Tinubu. Tanker explosion claims 48 lives, 50 cattle in Niger. POS operators insist on court ruling amid CAC threats. Nigerians not enjoying benefits of more allocations to states. Of course, that goes without saying. NAFDAC warns against miracle products of faith-based organizations. NLC vows to tackle graft, fiscal indiscipline by politicians. But I think we should start with dealing with the issue of fuel, the price, and all of the attendant consequences as we are now seeing in this country right now. That Nigerians are not enjoying the increase in allocations to states, Juma, is a no-brainer because the governors are still telling the same old story of saying we'll let the federal government know it's a federal road and so on and so forth. In any case, in your state, in my state, and in all the other states, how many citizens understand in those states the difference between what their states were receiving before the subsidy issue came up? I mean, before subsidy payments were suspended. And now that allocations have increased on the back of suspension of subsidy payments. You see, that in itself highlights the concern of citizen awareness. Citizens must know where policies are going, where the money is coming from, where the money is, where the money is going to, and must be able to also follow through. Yes, we know politicians can be tricky and slippery and what have you. But you see, it's our country. We have to live with that reality. We don't have to fake it. Because at the end of the day, the governor I was almost tempted to say hired. The governor was elected to do a job, all right? Therefore, the tools he needs to do that job, whether he gets those tools or not, how he gets those tools and how he deploys those tools and other resources, including the funding in terms of allocation and lifelines from the federal government, it's something that he has to be accountable to the people for. I think the challenge has not even been the federal government, as it has been about the inability, or if you like, in some cases, failure of the people to hold their respective state governors accountable. I'm afraid time is so close to the news now.
Yes, it's so close to the news. I really wanted to talk about this POS and your take on it, because POS operators insist on court ruling amid CAC.
It means you and I are going to have even a bigger time after the news to talk about this.
We have to. And of course, up next is the AM News. Of course, part 2 of Newspaper Review continues immediately after the news. Stay tuned. Do not go anywhere. It's Global Morning. Hello and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to AM News on Global Television, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Jumai Manson. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and free-to-air Nicomsat. Now the news in full. About 30 people have lost their lives to a deadly petrol tank explosion in Niger State. The incident occurred at the Dendo community in Agay local government area of the state. In a statement, Abdullahi Baba Arab, Director General of Niger State Emergency Management Agency, said the tanker was involved in a head-on collision with a trailer loaded with cattle. President Bola Tinubu has reaffirmed his administration's commitment to enhancing the Nigerian police force capabilities and improving personal welfare. He listed critical measures being undertaken by the administration in this regard to include acquisition of new vehicles, communication equipment, and forensic tools to enhance crime detection and prevention. The president stated this during the passing out parade and commissioning of the regular officers course 6 at the Nigerian Police Academy in Wadi, Kano State. Tinubu, who was represented by Vice President Kashim Shettima, noted that as a government committed to sustainable growth, his administration is fully aware that development of any country is directed woven into the strength of its institutions. The Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SORAP, has urged President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to instruct the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited to immediately reverse the recent increase in the pump price of premium motor spirit, commonly known as petrol. The organization says the petrol price hike represents a fundamental breach of constitutional guarantees and the country's international human rights obligations, especially as citizens face worsening economic hardship. SORAP has also requested that President Tinubu direct the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice Lateef Fagbemi and relevant anti-corruption agencies to investigate allegations of corruptions and mismanagement with the NNPCL. Over now to the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar has criticized plans by the federal government to increase the nation's value-added tax. Atiku said the policy would deepen the domestic cost of living crisis and exacerbate Nigerians' already fragile economic growth. He noted that the move coming on the heels of the increase in the pump price of premium motor spirit, also known as fuel, by the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited will worsen Nigerians' already fragile economic growth. Former Vice President Namadi Sambo has lamented the escalation in insecurity in the north, stating that it is driving farmers away from their farms and adversely affecting the education and health of numerous families. Sambo also expressed his support for the formation of the League of Northern Democrats, which he described as a valuable platform to address the numerous challenges facing the North and the country at large. He gave his endorsement while hosting the leadership of the League, led by its chairman, former Kano State Governor Ibrahim Shekarau, at his residence in Abuja. The All Progressive Congress in Anambra State has withdrawn from the upcoming local government elections scheduled for 28 September 2024, citing concerns over alleged irregularities. The party says the decision followed alleged violation of due process, which they believe undermines the credibility of the poll. The APC further explained that participating in the exercise will amount to legalizing illegality, insisting that the constitution of Anambra State Independent Electoral Commission and the announcement of the election date did not follow due process as stipulated by the Electoral Act 2022. Kwara State Commissioner of Police Victor Olaiya has appealed to commercial transport operators in the state to uphold peace as the government works to improve the economic situation in the country. The appeal followed a protest by transport operators in the state, including drivers of commercial taxi cabs, tricycle operators, and motorcycle riders, who demonstrated against the recent fuel price increase in Ilorin, the state capital. Olaiya, who met representatives of the National Union of Road Transport Workers, Road Transport Employers Associations of Nigeria at the command headquarters in Ilorin, urged them to maintain peace in the state. No fewer than 61 foreign nationals were deported by the Nigerian Immigration Service from the country in August 2024. This is because the new visa policy facilitated a total of 8,352 visas on arrival for travelers in the month under review. The figures were contained in a report by the service detailing the NIS achievements for August. In the report, the reason for deporting the foreign nationals was to address the issue of irregular migration in the country. The National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, has alerted Nigerians to the activities of a faith-based organization, Christ Mercy Land Delivery Ministries, led by Prophet Jeremiah Fufuyin, allegedly using the agency's name to mislead unsuspecting members of the public. NAFDAC, in a statement signed by its Director General, Professor Mujishola Adeyeye, noted that none of the products advertised and sold are registered with the agency. Operators of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, have intercepted consignments of cocaine and pharmaceutical opiates concealed in ladies' sanitary pads and hair treatment cream containers heading to the United Kingdom, Ireland, and Cyprus at 3 carrier companies in Lagos. A statement by the agency spokesperson, Femi Babafemi, says in one of the companies, not less than 30 parcels of cocaine weighing 1.1 kilogram in their hair cream containers were recovered by NDLEA officers during an examination of cargoes going to Ireland. Another consignment of 24 parcels of cocaine weighing 862 grams, also hidden in hair cream containers meant for delivery in the UK, was equally intercepted at the same company. The Nigerian Liquefied Natural Gas (LNG) says Train 7 project to expand Nigerians' LNG production capacity from 22 metric tons. Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of the company, Dr. Philip Mishabila, stated this when the Executive Secretary of the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, Felix Ogbe, visited the NLNG 6-train plant, Train 7 project construction site in Bonny Island, River State. Dr. Moshebele lauded the NSBDMB's unwavering support for the Train 7 project, describing the partnership as a shining example of the public-private collaboration that can drive Nigerians' industrial growth. Kano State Government has postponed indefinitely the resumption date of both primary and post-primary schools for the commencement of the 2024-25 academic session. However, unlike the case of Edo State, which mentioned the recent petrol price increase as a reason for its decision, Kano State says its decision is for urgent reasons with no details for specific information. Commissioner for Education Umar Dagowa said the decision was compelled by some undisclosed urgent reasons. Dagowa was quoted to have a new date will soon be announced by the ministry. Michelle Home Limited, a leading real estate firm, recently hosted a groundbreaking conference. Some frontline real estate practitioners harped on the possibility of generating wealth in the sector. Sharon Ajay completes the report.
The conference, themed The Wealth Building Blueprint, brought together various real estate stakeholders, providing a platform for empowerment and knowledge sharing. Architect Baraka Mashalia says his aim for organizing the event is to impact the new generation through inculcating knowledge of the real estate sector.
My greatest motive is to be able to impact on this generation. Of course, the high rate of unemployment is really alarming, and for me, I don't think it should be. The reason behind it is because there are a lot of opportunities around the real estate sector, and the greatest thing that is limiting people from achieving their goal of building wealth and helping their family and friends to be able to build wealth also is a product of mindset.
While sharing his success story on the steps he took in finding accomplishment in the industry, renowned real estate expert Dr. Linus Okori stated that wealth creation only comes as a direct result of an individual's ability to catch the vision.
So you come in an area in your life where nothing is happening, is that not it? And you set an agenda for the future. That agenda is called vision. Vision. Vision is the ability to see beyond our current reality. Our current reality is not exciting. There's poverty in our pocket, even as a nation, there's poverty in the land.
Speaking on the challenges that affect real estate sector, some mogul says consistency, Being intentional and integrity are key factors in overcoming challenges.
One thing is you have to be consistent. It's not you enter real estate today and the next day you are making money. You have to be, you have to be consistent. You have to be persistent with your push in the business. The challenges will come, but the most important thing is how to handle those challenges, turning those challenges to a force that drives you to do more in the business. So basically, the challenges will come. Just know how to overcome all those challenges that you are faced with.
Consistency really counts. Anything you're doing, you have to be consistent about it. And then there's another thing that is key, that's integrity. Integrity really counts. That's what defines you. That's what tells if people can really deal with you or not. And that's what really tells if you're someone to be trusted or not.
The conference aims to equip attendees with the expertise and insights necessary to spot and maximize opportunities, build wealth, and expand their understanding of the real estate sector. Sharon Ajay reporting for Global TV News.
Thank you, Sharon, for that report. A chieftain of the All Progressive Congress in Osun State, Olatubosun Oyintuloye, has appealed to President Bola Tinubu to act swiftly to alleviate the hardship faced by Nigerians. Although the lawmaker expressed confidence in President Tinubu's ability to ease the suffering of the masses, he suggested that faster approaches should be adopted, particularly given the economic difficulties caused by raising fuel price, which have made access to necessities more challenging. It was another spate of election violence at the ongoing APC governorship election campaign train in Esako Central Local Government Area of Edo State, as the security details of APC governorship candidate Senator Monday Okpeholo fired a litany of gunshots to disperse criminal elements trying to disrupt the campaign train of Ukpeba Ekpere. APC campaign train, despite the pockets of violence encountered, visited the people of Anegbete, Udaba, Fugo, and the capital of the local government area with the central message of voting out the PDP. Global Television political correspondent Anthony Mamadou reports.
If shooting guns, what they want to do, they will suffer it.
There was another election campaign violence in Esako Central Local Government Area of Edo State as witnessed in Ososo community, but this did not prevent the APC governorship candidate Senator Monde Okpeholo and the Deputy Governor of Edo State Philip Shuaibu from likening the PDP as a packaged food that causes cancer and thus should be avoided.
When you eat packaged food and you continue to eat it, what it will develop is cancer. Do we need cancer to continue? Or do we need this election are between darkness and light? Packaged food, they cause it.
On his part, the senator representing Edo North Senatorial District, Senator Adams Oshomole, called on the people and the electorate to join forces with the APC to vote out the People's Democratic Party at the polls.
We need to help us to tell our brother and our pikin, one man, one vote. One woman, one vote. One electoral man, one vote.
The unabating spate of violence witnessed in the Edo North region of the state is a source of concern ahead of the polls, as the APC governorship security details fired litany of shots at criminal elements trying to disrupt the campaign event. Anthony Momodu reporting from Esako Local Government Area of Edo State for Global.
Thank you, Anthony, for that report. No fewer than 3 people were killed in a multiple accident which occurred late hours of Saturday. The accident occurred at the Maryland along Ikorodu Road near Odoloya Loro, involving a tanker truck, an articulated vehicle and several cars. The incident happened a few minutes to 12 midnight with dozens of people involved. In the first accident, the State Emergency Management Agency said upon arrival at the scene by 1:13 a.m., the team met a multiple accident scene involving a tanker with unknown registration fully laden with diesel, which reportedly suffered a brake failure on motion, lost control and crashed into many cars, which reportedly resulted in many casualties. The Nigerian Labour Congress NLC has declared support for the 29-man caretaker committee put in place by the Abia Governor Alex Otti, the presidential candidate of the party in 2023. Peter Obi and party stakeholders last week, the national chairman of the party, Julius Abure, The party secretary Umar Farouk and national youth leader Kennedy Ahanatu were conspicuously absent at the enlarged stakeholders meeting held in Umuahia. The People's Democratic Party National Disciplinary Committee has received reports on alleged anti-party activities of the Minister of Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, and others from the National Working Committee. The committee, led by the former Foreign Affairs Minister Tom Ikimi, was set up to address and manage all disciplinary matters. 5 former governors of the PDP, led by Wike, all allegedly worked against the party and its presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar during the 2023 election. Ministry of Foreign Affairs says the United States is pressing for a consular cross to detained Benin executive Tigran Bamrayan, currently held at the Kuje Custodial Center in Abuja. Bamrayan, a U.S. citizen and Benin's financial crime compliance chief, was arrested in February 2024 along with another executive, Ajawala, upon their arrival in Nigeria. The detention followed an investigation that allegedly tied Benin's to money laundering and tourism financing. Justice Emeka Uwete of the Federal High Court in Abuja fixed October 9th to rule on the fresh bail application brought before the court by the Gambian's lawyer. You're watching AM News, coming to you live on Nigeria's capital, Abuja. When AM News returned, news food import waiver, others push Naira to new low. Details and more after this break. Please stay with us. You're welcome back, and if you're just tuning in, this is Global Television bringing you live broadcasts of AM News. Thank you for staying with us. The Nigerian currency, which opened September on a positive note across the segments of the currency market, weakened by Tuesday on the back of the heightened demand. Increasing demands for foreign exchange for foreign travel, school fees, and the planned food import duty waiver have pushed the Naira to a fresh depreciation spree in the week ended. On the unofficial market, the Naira have been quoted at 1,635 on Monday. However, by Tuesday, it had worsened to 1,640, according to some Bureau de Change operators in Lagos. The Nigerian Institute of Transport Technology has urged youths in Nigeria to take advantage of the over 20 skills development programs currently offered by the institute. The institute's Director General and Chief Executive, Dr. Bayaro Farah, made the call while receiving an award of excellence from the National Youth Council of Nigeria, Sabongeri Branch, Kaduna. Farah, in a statement from the institute, highlighted the importance of youth as a critical component of nation building, stating that without them, there would be no nation. Operators have warned that the Nigerian data center ecosystem is facing an unprecedented threat of collapse. They say the continued decline of the Naira against the dollar, combined with the several lack of access to long-term financing, is crippling operators and pushing the industry to the edge. Data centers, crucial for digital transformation, are large facilities that house servers and computer equipment to process, store, and distribute data and applications over the internet. The House of Representative members representing Orado Federal Constituency of Edo State, Esosa Iwawe, has hailed the Dangote Petroleum Refinery for the start of production of premium motor spirit, better known as petrol. Iwawe said this while significantly helped to boost Nigerians' foreign exchange reserve as importation of petrol would drop. The Dangote Refinery began the production of petrol, marking the first time in 28 years Nigeria locally commenced production of the product. On our foreign scene now, Super Typhoon Ningye ripped roofs of buildings, sank boats, and triggered landslides in Vietnam, leaving 9 people dead as of Sunday, after tearing through southern China and the Philippines. State media says a family of 4 was killed in a landslide in the mountainous Ho Binh province of the northern Vietnam early Sunday morning. The landslide happened around midnight after several hours of heavy rain brought by Yagi, when a hillside gave way and collapsed into a house, Vin Express said, citing local authorities. The Venezuelan government says opposition candidate Almaro González, who disputed President Nicolas Maduro's July 28 re-election, has left the country to seek asylum in Spain. González has been in hiding for a month, ignoring 3 consecutive summons to appear before prosecutors, saying attending the hearing could have cost his freedom. Madrid's foreign minister Jose Manuel Abreu said on X that González, at his request, had departed on a Spanish military plane, noting that Spain is committed to the political rights of all Venezuelans. Tens of thousands of people demonstrated in Tel Aviv and other Israel cities, calling for an agreement to release around 100 hostages held by the Palestinian Islamist group Hamas. Gamel Gant, another woman, and 4 men were shot at close range last week, according to Israel's health ministry, after Israel soldiers found their bodies last Sunday in a tunnel in Gaza. Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had agreed to a deal. In sports, Atlanta forward and 2024 Ballon d'Or nominee Ademola Lookman scored a brace, while on a loan Nepalese striker Victor Osimhen added another goal as the Super Eagles began their 2025 AFCON qualifiers in empathetic style, beating the Benin Republic 3-0 at the Godswill Apabio International Stadium in Uyo. Lookman broke the deadlock with a trademark cut and slice finish in a first half stoppage time and completed his brace with another sub-lem strike in an 83rd minute, while Osimhen came off the bench to score Nigerians' second following Lookman's opener. Still on sports, meanwhile, Super Eagles interim coach Augustin Eguavoen has expressed confidence in the team's ability to defeat any opponent, citing the exceptional quality of the players. Eguavoen stated this after his team spanked the Chieftains of Benin Republic 3-0 in the 2025 African Cup of Nations at the Godswill Apabio Stadium, Uyo, Akwa Ibom State. Belarusian tennis star Aryna Sabalenka has defeated her American counterpart Jessica Pegula to clinch the 2024 U.S. Open women's title. She claimed her 3rd Grand Slam title overall with a victory at the Arche on Saturday, adding the trophy to 2 she earned at the Australian Open each at the past 2 seasons. Sabalenka, who lost the 2023 U.S. Open final to Coco Gauff, defeated a Penguin with the epic 2-seed 7-5, 7-5. The world number 2 sealed the 61-minute opener with a featured backhand drop shot that Pengula chased down but failed to get over the net to win it 7-5. As we end the AM news on Global Television, here's a quick look at some of our major stories again. Over 30 persons have been reported dead and 50 cattle burnt in Niger State tanker explosion. In business, food import waiver and others factors have been identified as factors pushing Nigeria to new low. On our foreign scene, Israel's demand release of hostages held by Hamas. Venezuela says opposition presidential candidates on asylum to Spain. On sports, AFCON 2025, Eguavoen has expressed confidence that Nigerian Super Eagles can beat any team. Sabalenka has defeated Pegula to win first U.S. Open. And that's it on AM News, and it came to you live from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. Remember, we're on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276 and free to air. Kindly follow us across all social media platforms by using a Global TV NG and the handles now showing on your screen. I am Jumai Manson. Thank you for watching. Global Morning continues immediately. Stay tuned.
Global Morning is your ultimate destination for engaging political and economic matters. I am Uyi Agmofwebe.
And don't forget to include social discussions. Tune in every weekdays from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. I am Queen Agaba.
For insightful breakfast ideas, business summaries, sports highlights, international and local news perspective, I am Anthony Momodo.
Don't miss the in-depth analysis of current and political issues by the Global Morning team and experts. I am Jumai Manson.
Catch Global Morning here on Global Television. Getting on the action. I am Edikan Michael.
We are
the Global Morning team.
the papers right now, everybody. Turns out we're just looking at the Guardian newspaper a while ago. Before I took a break, I should say, to bring you the Global AM news. And of course, there was a story that Juma was particularly interested in. And I'm sure every Nigerian who uses financial services, whether directly with traditional banks or fintechs, PSBs, as we call them, payment service banks, we should be familiar with this phenomenon, which is the POS issue.
Point of service.
Point of sale, yes, transactions. You know, before the break, I told you, I said, I'm also interested in this because yesterday my wife asked me a question. She said, at what point did we move from banks to POS? I couldn't provide an answer. Hopefully she has some time to watch in between her busy schedule this morning, so she probably can find some insight, not just from you and I, but also from our guest who will join shortly. You see, the thing is, if you do the wrong thing long enough, it's a natural phenomenon.
It becomes a part and parcel.
Yes, in fact, those wrong things become the norm, sadly. You see, POS is a blessing. Let's not get it twisted. However, the question is, how did we get to a point where, for an entire week, for example, you can't use your debit card on an ATM terminal? Meanwhile, all the POS terminals or POS points in your neighborhood are working. All the ones around your workplace, they are functioning, they are in service. They can give you 100,000. They can help you send 1 minute to somebody.
Really, yeah.
But you can't collect 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 from a terminal, which is a legit thing. I know, for example, a few years ago, you would go into the bank to say you want to collect 50,000, 30,000. The cashier there will tell you, please use the POS, use the ATM outside, because they want to be able to attend to people who are doing bulk transactions, which only makes sense, so that at least they can decentralize a little, both in the interest of the bank and that of the customer. But at the point, the whole thing just moved, like a traffic. After work in Lagos, moved towards POS. All of a sudden, it's as if we are gradually beginning to
tilt.
Yes, away from ATM terminals to POS. Today, people don't even have that impetus to want to go to an ATM terminal. Instead, they're asking you, Juma, please, do you have any POS points?
Around, yes, it's faster, it's convenient.
And we're to point them to one. Yes, there's one over there just by that transformer. There's one over there just by that shopping mall and all of that. So the question is, at what point did we miss it? I'm not so sure I understand that right now. But I do know for a fact that in recent times, the Corporate Affairs Commission has come up to say, look, you guys are doing legitimate business. Nobody's fighting that.
True.
In fact, what you guys are doing adds value to the economy.
It does.
However, you must streamline. You must do it the proper way. You
Very
must
importantly,
follow regulatory requirements. First of which is that your businesses must be registered.
Very important.
So practically, it means that Juma or Uyi cannot just wake up and say, because I have a POS terminal in my hand, so I can just go to the corner of my father's house and start doing business. No, we must tie you and that business to a name. We must be able to track that business.
Very important.
We must be able to trace it back to a human being, a real person. That has been the struggle. Incidentally, Juma, that deadline elapsed about 3 days ago.
Yes, it did.
The 5th of this month.
Yes, it did.
So the CAC is now saying, for those of you who have been using the word of the CAC now, recalcitrant, there's going to be penalty for it. We're going to crack down. We're going to clamp down. Of course, the CAC was not also ignorant of the fact that some persons are being smart enough, as to be responsible and patriotic enough to register their business. But you've got to register your business. I know of a few mama puts, as we call them, food vendors by the corner, who have also registered their businesses. at that level, regardless of the scale. And when you make transactions to them, you make payments to them, you see their business name showing, not an individual.
Exactly.
So the CAC is saying, in the final analysis, if it's a business, let us treat it as a business. End of story.
Yeah, very important. For us, most of these points of sale, POS, they're actually used to perpetrate crime. Are you aware that some of these people, these hackers, I keep talking about it because,
you've had your own fair share.
In fact, now, if one's beaten 100 shy.
No, they say forever shy.
So the thing, they use it to perpetrate crime. Immediately they hack an account. It's the next point of sale, and they use that to actually withdraw this amount from the banks. I hope you're aware. And then they tell you, oh my goodness, if it's point of sale, there's no way we can track it and all of this. So what the CAC is doing is it's in line, is in tune. It's accurate. I support it 100% because most of these point of sale individuals need to give account. You need to be accountable for these sort of things that you do. And for others who are just trying to make ends meet, let's do the right thing. To register a business, I don't think it's so much. You can actually do it. It's for your own good, so you will not be implicated in one way or the other. So for me, this is very important that they should do the needful. Regulations must be made. You must adhere to procedures of law. Very important. And so that at least criminalities in our society will be a sort of deterrent exactly. It might not be scrapped out completely, but at least that fear will be there that okay, you can be traced. I can actually trace where this is going to or where it's coming from. It's just so it's very important for me that this is done adequately and fast, not just like I said, not just effort, not just sitting down and talking about it, but it's very important that action, I always say it, action is very important. So let us just see how far this will go, and I pray that the needful is done so we can crack this out. Really, there's a lot of criminalities happening in Nigeria as we speak. People do it as in you can just see it or behind closed door in front of you, just in your face. So it's very important that we understand due process. It's very important. For as much as they're adding value, yes, I know individuals that have stayed like 3 months, 6 months, they've not gone to the bank to do anything when it comes to withdrawal of money. They go to the point of sale individuals because it's easier, it's simple. No one will tell you that you have to start. You know, the ATM machine is 10,000. If you want 40,000, 10,000, the stress. But with the point of sale individuals, give me 50,000 a day. He takes his 500 naira as interest, or some places 1,000 naira his service charge. And we like, if you look at it, if you look at the queue, look at the stress. Just take your 1,000 naira, save yourself the inconvenience, the stress, and move on. But at the same time, as long as you want to save yourself the inconvenience and of course all of these things, it is important that they are registered. There is a face tied to these businesses. It's not just one name you see from somewhere. It's a registered name, so that anything that happens when it comes to these criminalities that are happening with these point of sale individuals, because some of them you'll be surprised that they work hand in hand. They do. They work hand in hand with these hackers, like these fraudsters. Are you kidding me? Of course. So there's one close by. So immediately in the Pigeon Palace, they hammer. They see a mugu that they decide to do all of these things to. He withdraws the money ASAP. So it's very important we have a face tied to the point of sale. Very important for me.
Right. I think I also like what the CBN is doing. The CBN is making efforts, and we've seen those efforts, quite frankly, to ensure that these microfinance banks, especially these ones that were registered just a few years ago, the new entrants into the space, or let's not call their names now, are properly regulated and they are well placed in terms of how they operate, to ensure that they don't overstep their bounds, you know, in terms of their practices, their ethical conduct, you know, and so on and so forth. Because whether you like it or not, Jumai, these ATM terminals are branded. I mean, you use their services, I use their services, we all do. So we see the brands, we see the microfinance banks or the payment service banks that they are all tied to, all right? And just by the way, this week, the CBN has said that there will not be a levy, all right, on any transaction of higher than 10,000 done on all of these platforms. But again, the point here is that because these ATM terminals are, as it were, sourced or obtained from these banks that are non-traditional banks, non-conventional banks, it means that we should have a trail, which means we already know that it is Juma and Uyi Bank that gave you, for example, this ATM, this POS terminal you're using.
Exactly.
And we know that your business name is ABC Business Venture. So we can trace it all the way down till we find the individual who registered that business, identify the POS terminal, and then be able to spot the organization, the financial organization.
Very important. Very important.
There's accountability all through.
Exactly.
Otherwise, what we have as of this morning, today is the 9th day in the month of
September.
I can assure you that over half of the people who own POS, whether they own it or not, I don't know, they are not registered. They are in the cloud. They are off radar.
Exactly.
You can't trace them. You can't track them. In fact, so bad that I know for a fact, as of 5 years ago in this country, somewhere down south, that even some police checkpoints were accused of having POS terminals. So the question is, who registered those terminals? Because you must commission a terminal to be working, for Jumai to be able to use our ATM, for Uyi to be able to collect money from it. So the question is, who registered that terminal? In whose name? On what platform is it running?
Exactly.
So it becomes questionable, it becomes disturbing that when you lodge a complaint about a criminal transaction from your account
that took place, you can,
your bank is telling you,
I can trace, like really
through POS. That means there's a problem, and it means also that whatever the CAC is doing right now, to put it mildly, is
spot on. It's accurate.
In fact, if anything, you should go ahead to clamp down on those who continue to be recalcitrant.
Exactly.
Everybody can just do whatever they like.
Exactly.
And hurt others.
And hurt others. Like, seriously, no database. Unfortunately, your bank will actually tell you
that we can't try.
Like, I'm sorry. And in the words, I really want to read it. We're sorry for this loss of funds. We were unable to trace this person because he used point of sale, and it's just unfortunate that there is no face tied to that. It's just unfortunate that this person has an account number with some other bank, and then you're telling me a different story. It's just unfortunate where we are here and the system in which we find ourselves. We don't even know who to trust anymore. Our banks are supposed to secure our monies, or we don't even know. It's just unfortunate, but this is a step in the right direction as far as I am concerned. At least there'll be a face tied to these individuals. So accountability, transparency is going to be out in the open now. At least you will give account of what transpired once you are gotten, and then that data that is given. It's very important that it's just very important. For me, it's spot on. CAC is spot on. I completely concur to this. It's very important. It's also unfortunate that some people might say, oh, for us that we do legitimate business. Well, I'm sorry. People have gone through all of these. People have been duped. Millions have gone into the drains. Are you kidding me? People's school fees. So please, I'm telling you, Uyi, so please, just pardon all of these things. Just do the needful, because, of course, like I said, crimes have gone like easily with these points of sale index, exactly, terminal. So the thing is, let the needful be done. I completely concur with what this. At least it's an awakening that at least we're walking in the right direction now. So let the needful be done. We really
better late than never.
Better late than never.
All right, Juma has the next paper for us.
Yes,
The Nation.
Yes, I do. I have the Nation.
Having returned from the Guardian newspaper. Right.
Exactly. Now, above the nameplate of the Nation, it says resident doctors to lose 7 days' pay to strike. Of course, we know what that is all about. The strike is not all about their better
welfare.
Their welfare or what they need. It's because their friend Popola Ganiat has been held in captivity for 9 months now. So that's why they are bent on going on the strike and still staying on the strike, because they want the release of their colleague, which for me is thoughtful. It is kind. It shows unity. It shows love. And we don't see that every day. That a particular professional segment will just come out and say, okay, because of one individual, we're ready to risk it all. And we should give us kudos that we're part of the few that didn't, in quote and unquote, jackpot. We still believe in Nigeria. We still believe that things will be great again. We are here, but this is all we want, and it's taking the government forever to attend to this very delicate issue. It's just unfortunate. I remember, let's not forget, we have Mpox around the corner. We have series of malaria. We have individuals who are supposed to go on surgery today, and yet the doctors are nowhere to be found.
We hear that diphtheria is also rearing its ugly head again.
Exactly. So where do we go in all of these? With all of these issues creeping up, where do we go to?
And incidentally, Jim, as it turns out, in the health sector, the resident doctors do the bulk of the work because they are more of the guys on the ground. Yes, you have consultants, no doubt. You have those, some in the middle, who may not be doctors, but very crucial to the health system. But if you pull out the resident doctors as a factor from the equation, we all know where the math will lead.
Definitely. Consultants, what do they really do? They just sit down, they do a lot of work, I know. But like you said, the resident doctors do the bulk of the work. Right. They're the ones that look at you. The resident doctors sometimes refer you, okay, this is your diagnosis, this is what I've seen. Meet one of the resident doctors to put you through. Exactly. So it's like I always mention, all sectors are important, but you see the health that has to do with life is where we shouldn't toy with that aspect at all. It's very important that we understand that. So I just pray that the needful is done with immediate effect. Like I said, effort is good, but action is important.
Right.
Now, moving on now to the next story. It says 342 billion naira recovered from Nestle MFB debtors, and you can see that the writer says Apex Bank deploys, and you can find that on page 4 of the Nation newspaper. And here it says, Wike Chinese firm signs MOUs to boost power, water in FCT. And it says how to deepen CNG penetrations by operators. And you can find that on page 16 of the Nation. Nigerian Chinese firms sign $1 billion Icon ore to steel project pact. And the Star story there says investors stake FGN $500 million bond to oversubscription. And the rider there, we have 2 riders, experts project 100% intake and final allotment to beneficiaries this week. And below the foot of the Nation paper, it says here 48 die in Niger tanker fire as double multiple crashes kill 1 in Lagos. And you can find that headlines on page 7. Please go out and get the Nation's newspaper to be more informed on the events making round. And next is the Punch, giving us some very punchy headlines. And Uyi, over to you.
Right, so let's turn to the Punch quickly for you. We'll begin with the stories above the nameplate. One here with a picture of the president of Academic Staff Union of Universities, Professor Osodo K. Strike ASU government panel to meet Wednesday, that's in 2 days' time. Group sues Lagos over $100 million Dangote land deal. 4 billion naira illegal arms, 10 charged with terrorism. And then you have one more here that says Obasaki's ego caused rift with Oshomole. That's according to the APC. A group urges ASAM people to unite for Ighodalo. That's the PDP candidates in the forthcoming governorship election in those states. The Star story reads, marketers plan petrol imports as NNPCL Dangote's talks drag. 2 riders there. The first one says petrol dealers to meet Dangote over pricing uncertainty over NNPC's September 15 PMS lifting. Ipman laments as NNPC delays supply at depots. Pump price nears 1,250 naira in states. Okay. 48 passengers, 50 cows killed in Niger tanker fire. Over 1,000 soldiers resigned from army in 4 years. That's an average of 250 in a year. But the army is now saying that there's no truth in that report. And the army also says that soldiers have the right to resign. Of course, that's a no-brainer. Europe-bound cocaine consignment intercepted in sanitary pads. This story came through yesterday and is a pointer to how desperate traffickers are now with regards to illicit substance. Articles 8, LP, NNPP differ on merger plan. Well, there's still time to talk merger, particularly amongst the big opposition parties. Okay, let's go create our own Vanguard. Juma will take us to the Vanguard newspaper right now.
And of course, the Vanguard newspaper, that's the last paper today on the newspaper review segment. Right. And above the nameplate, the Vanguard, it says here, VAT CIT revenue rises 85% to 6.44 trillion naira. And then on page 6 on the Vanguard, you will find amid economic challenges, federal government opens new opportunities with LTC licenses to UTM FLNG. Yadua matriarch engage in politics of integrity, Clark tells Atiku. And you can find that on page 5. On page 6 of the Vanguard, 100 feared dead in tanker explosion in Niger State, 50 cows burnt. Below the template of the Vanguard here, it says petrol price hike, and that's the star story. And it says Nigerians at breaking point. NLC, Atiku warn. And the rider there says NLC inside on reversal urges citizens to reveal against hike, VAT, fuel price hikes, worsen Nigerians of living crisis. And then below that it says UTM flung gets construction license for floating LNG. NDLEA intercepts consignments of cocaine, opioids in sanitary pads, hair creams. And you can find that on page 6. And 37 Sports Story says Oluwa Femlayo clinches second gold, shatters world record. And of course, the JACPA says Canada student enrollment drops 45% after new study visa cap. And that is all basically on the Vanguard newspaper. And go out and get yourself a copy to read more stories.
I particularly find some interest, Juma, in this story that has details on page 9, the one about JACPA and Canada students' enrollment.
I just want
to 45%. You see, the UK had done that last year. Of
Yes,
course,
they
kicked
did.
into force just this January. Canada just did theirs. Arguably, theirs is the most recent of countries who have capped enrollment for Nigerian students or even African students, you know. Because their own case is clear. I mean, Canada now, they are saying that, look, you came here during COVID-19 or just before COVID-19, and then you got trapped in the middle of your study. And as such, we allowed you the latitude of using your study visa, all right, to work, which is not the case. But then it was a peculiar circumstance we're dealing with. You were already trapped here. There was nothing we could do about it.
Yes, very true.
So we wanted to make, we don't want a bad situation to look worse, that sort of thing. However, COVID is a few years behind us already, and we are using that as an opportunity going forward to review our laws and our provisions and policy and what have you. Therefore, you will have to go back. And going forward, we also will not allow a situation where Juma or OE comes there with study visa and expect that they can work. But now the news, this story in particular is now telling us that on account of that policy decision, that cap that has been created, the Nigerian student enrollment has dropped by 45%. Now, I'm sure we understand that's a lot of numbers. If you turn to the United Kingdom, for example, where Nigerians have the natural tendency to go to for further study and what have you, it is even far worse because it has now plummeted, or as they say in economics, it has now dipped their revenue from foreign students because Nigerians pay a whole lot. An average school, for example, in the UK can cost a Briton, say, £4,500 a session, whereas in Nigeria, it is going to cost you maybe 17,000. So we pay much more. Because
yes, we do.
Exactly. We are international students. And you know, everywhere Nigerians go, they always want to bring value, one way or another. So if you remove Nigeria as an equation, as a factor from the equation, it becomes a problem. So some people are now saying that it's a matter of time. In fact, very shortly, these countries will have to do a rethink of these policy decisions and even open the door far wider for Nigerians to come in. But that's not me encouraging Jackpot. It is what it is now, right?
It is what it is. It's just unfortunate that's particular circumstance. Some Nigerians will have to rethink traveling abroad now because that was just the gateway to get out of the country because of the economic situation in which we find ourselves in Nigeria. But at the same time, I think this is indirectly, or will I say directly or indirectly, telling Nigeria, stay in your country. I think
fix your own country.
Fix your own country, don't come. But you know, I think this policy came into being. Canadians, they didn't find a problem with it when Nigerians always coming, when it was actually increasing their economy because of the value and the money in which it was bringing to their country. Now that it's overpopulated, now we get this because Nigerians have found easy access to jackpot in that were to come over there. So now that I think is now becoming more of a problem than a solution for these foreign individuals, and that is why these policies are coming out and it is being reviewed with immediate effect. But hopefully, the prayer is we let our country be fixed, let things get better, so that we won't even go to another man's country to go and work. Only go there for holiday, relax, and come back home where there is laxity, freedom. Eat your pounded yam with your jollof rice, your orishi when it comes to the and be happy.
Yeah, by weekend you can say enough of jollof rice.
Let me go. And then at the end of it all, I can just say, okay, I think I'm done with the Nigerian. Let me just go 2 weeks, travel and come. I don't have to work in another man's land. That's the thing. That is why our leaders have a lot of work to do. It is so shameful that some Nigerians, during that time of COVID, they've actually made these foreign places their home. They've started a new means of life. This is just going to destabilize them right now as we speak. They're telling them to come back home now. It's a problem, and really they do not want to come back home.
I mean, a good number of them had settled there already.
Are you kidding me? Married, some were
raising a family.
Some were even lucky to find love. So what do you say to that kind of person? That
well, I think those will be considered under different circumstances. I'll give you an example. So if a young man got trapped there on account of COVID, in between, to use your term, found love. Right, in the middle of it all. Then apparently they are now married to a Canadian. So there's basis to apply for citizenship if they don't already have permanent residence.
But I hope you know how this works. He will still have to come back to all of these processes are due.
COVID is some 3-4 years behind us. All right. So a lot could have happened for some people. Some people may have already obtained residency before.
The lucky ones.
So yes, exactly. So those may not have to come home.
No, they don't.
But those whose status is still that visa, that study visa.
Exactly.
By all means, I mean, my 4-year-old girl knows they need to
you
come
have
home.
to come back to
But again, just to say, add to what you said, that look, we need to fix our own country.
It's very important.
Yes, you can travel abroad, do whatever you want to do, but in the final analysis, Nigeria is your home. However, for those who also want to travel, which is their rights, there are legitimate options, windows, opportunities, channels, routes that you can use. Up until today, there are countries, Canada, US, UK, even in Asia, where you can go to study, you work, and do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
But you see, you must always ask yourself, what is the legitimate procedure to use? If you're not clear, the internet is a blessing and it's your friend. Added to that, there are travel agents everywhere, study abroad consultants everywhere. So they are
legit ones, in
very legit, exactly.
Yes, very
ones
true.
Who have a track record that you can use. But in all, just be sure you do the right thing so you can take your conscience to bed and close your eyes to sleep at night.
Your 2 eyes closed. But at the same time, the government of Nigeria has a lot of work to do.
Sure we do. I mean, look at the Dubai visa issue that has been dragging back and forth the entire time.
Exactly. We like seriously.
The UAE palaba, like one man called it.
But at the same time, we really have a lot of work to do. Amending our own, we need to do the needful. We need to make Nigeria great again. And it's not all about efforts. Efforts is good. At least we know that there is empathy. We understand what individuals are going through. But action is key. It is very important. So let's keep hope alive. I always say keep hope alive is very important. I know that once there is life, there is hope. Things will be better again. No one found it easy. Baby steps all the way, but at the same time, everything is going to be fine. Of course, that's all on the paper review this morning, right? And then we're taking a break, and then when we come back, the first discuss of the day with a guest, Kayode Lawa, will be here, and of course he is a development expert, talking more about the point of sale and of course the APC in general. Stay tuned, do not go anywhere. The program continues shortly.
Thank you, everyone, for staying with us on the program. Our guest will join us shortly to look at two things for the last lap of the program today. First, the issue of efforts now being made by the Corporate Affairs Commission, which is an agency of the federal government responsible for registering businesses, streamlining their operations, at least to a very large extent, or just ensuring that they do the right thing as corporate entities, so to say. All right. The second one is the Progressive Institute of the All Progressives Congress, that is the ruling party, APC, in Nigeria right now. We understand the PDP has something like that in the works, which has not fully come to fruition. Is there also a pointer that that's what political parties will be doing going forward, including Labour Party, NNPP, ABGA, and so on and so forth? But Nigerians know, and those who watch the political landscape basically understand that it is not so much about how many democratic institutes or progressive institutes that we have that will count ultimately. It is how political parties and their leadership internalize the tenets of democracy, because democracy essentially starts from within the political parties. As a matter of fact, many analysts and researchers will tell you that the anomalies we have come to find with our electoral process, whether it is violence, all sort of fraud and rigging and sharp practices and so on and so forth, stem largely from how political parties conduct themselves. From the way they organize their primaries, the primaries proper, the individuals and their characters, the process of selection, how that process throws people up, the factor of money within political parties and so on and so forth, all right, are also responsible for all of these. But I think these are issues we need to continue to talk about even beyond today. But in the meantime, the POS issue is a very worrisome concern.
Yes, it is.
In Nigeria right now, because as we speak, by the time we're done with this program, Jumai, I'm very sure that new POS points will spring up in this country.
Of course, right this minute.
Abuja and these environs where our office is situated. But the question is, who is watching them? Who is regulating them?
Exactly.
Who is doing something about the way they operate? Of course, we also know, for the purpose of balance and to be fair, the statistics are there, people have seen this happen, of how that the POS people themselves, the operators, have been subjected to all kinds of inhuman treatments.
Very true.
1 minute it is daredevil armed robbers coming to steal their valuables.
Very true.
Their money, their phones, and other items. You know, broad daylight, we've seen that happen. We've also seen people who come to defraud them using all the
fake transaction
criminal tactics in this world. Somebody supposedly transfers 175,000 naira.
Fake, of course.
Only for you to realize that what has actually been transferred to you in real terms is 1,750 naira.
Really?
So where would the difference of about say 173,000 naira come from? Imagine all the capital this operator has for that day is just 200,000, and somebody has defrauded you to the tune of 173,250 naira. So where will you get that difference from? Most times, like you and I also know, Jumai, the guys who operate these POS terminals are not the owners. They work for somebody.
True.
So it's like one person having maybe 10 or more POS points. So they have someone at every point who accounts to them at the end of every business day, or maybe at the end of every week, as it may be. And just to mention too that one of the things that make this conversation very complicated to have and even a little sensitive is that we know as broadcast journalists that the bulk of the people who own these terminals are in the financial sector.
Yes, they are.
Some of them work for traditional banks in this country. So you see that the conspiracy is thick beyond just ensuring that the businesses themselves are registered.
Yeah, very true. You've said it all. Most of these points of sale individuals work for all of the. I know a banker who actually would tell you, Juma, I have like 15 have POS services everywhere, just name it. They will openly tell you this sort of thing because that's where they get their incomes. I know that is what is in the fast lane now. And many individuals, nobody has time to come to the ATM machine and withdraw, stand that queue, or when there is bad service, or all of these things. The only time point of sale they have issues is when your bank has an issue with network. That's when you know that you cannot get a withdrawal.
Operator related issue.
Exactly. But aside that, they are good to go. And like you said, most of them have fallen into the hands of fraudsters, individuals who have scammed them in broad daylight, armed robbers, snatching their bags and all of that, midnight and all of these things. They fall into that. But all in all, it's a two-way thing. Individuals have actually lost their life savings. People have been scammed, and they've used the point of sale as a means of getting rid of the money that is actually taken from individuals' accounts. So they have done that. So the best thing right now, which I concur to, is the registration of this. Just be registered so that we can find the root cause, so there can be a trace. Okay, so where to start from? Because when there is no face into something, how can I hold a label? Where will I start from? So investigations should start from somewhere. It shouldn't be vague or blank that we do not know where to go to in this sort of issue. So it's very important that the needful is done. It's going to be hard. It's going to be stressful. Finance will go into it when it comes to registration. It doesn't come cheap. It doesn't come easy. I have friends who are lawyers, believe me. And the thing is, there's always a way you can do this sort of registrations with friends and family members who actually, okay, instead of you paying 50,000, I can do it for like 40,000 naira because it's you. I don't have to charge so much. But at the same time, just do the needful. Register your point of sale machine so that we'll find a headway when it comes to issues of fraud. And for me, that's my own concern, the issue of fraud, because I told you that's 2 weeks ago I was scammed. So the thing is, it's a very painful thing, very, very painful. And that's why I'm saying we need a face tied to this point of sale so that they can be data. We can actually find who is responsible for what. There is a trace. So your banks will not come up, because it's very painful when your bank that you trust with your funds
says they are helpless.
I'm telling you, and they send you a message that is so annoying. I tell you are sorry for your funds in which you've lost. Are you kidding me right now? That you cannot trace the person that it was done through point of sale. What's my business with that? That is why you're my banker. Do the needful and trace. And of course, that's why we do it. Okay, so what was the use of our BVN? Let's ask ourselves this question.
Let's not mention NIN.
Let's not mention NIN. Put NIN. NIN just, according to the Pigeon Bar, just pack one side. Let's talk about BVN now, where someone's data, the face, date of birth, everything is there, and yet you're telling me. And then it's just unfortunate where we find ourselves. But you see this registration of POS, according to Corporate Affairs Commission, spot on. I support 101%. There's anything like that, I support and I concur. And I'm sure a lot of Nigerians will support this particular notion that is out, because people need to be held accountable. A lot of things have been done. A lot of individuals have gone through a lot. People need to be held accountable. They need to be transparent, especially when it has to do with our finance. Not just individual finance, and of course collective finance. Accountability is very important. Give account. Let's see, let's know what's going on. It's very important. This data and all of these things, registration of business, not just POS. All businesses need to be registered. A lot of things are going on now. You see, with these economic issues that we're having, a lot of fake products. So we need to know who people have lost their lives. Fake drugs, fake this, fake that. So once there's a registration, we know who to hold responsible. You will give account and tell us what went wrong, how did it go wrong. You see, that's the problem. Nigeria, we have this, at the beginning of the program, I said, as Nigerians, we love to sweep things under the rug so much. And the highest, they'll ask me questions 1, 2, 3 days, and the next thing, everything is done. Once I have the money to bail myself out, who cares? That's, of course, that's the end. Of course, top officials who have gone through a lot, who have embezzled and laundered our monies, and yet 1 or 2 days we don't hear about these issues anymore. It's swept under the rug, and they live their normal lives as if nothing has happened. So it's just unfortunate where we found ourselves. But at least with this due process, when it comes, at least let's start from somewhere. Let's start from somewhere.
Well, we should, because I'm very sure Nigerians have not recovered from the experience they had with the Naira redesign issue of last year.
No, we've not gotten over it yet.
How that your bank is jammed
Uh-huh.
from the banking hall all the way outside. Of course, ATM terminals are not paying. Some of them will manage to pay at about dinner time, late into the night, with a cap of 10,000, in some cases 5,000.
Exactly.
The whole time, people are going to POS terminals to practically beg for money.
Yeah.
Somebody's collecting as small as 5,000.
And you're
asking to
begging.
pay 1.5 to collect 1,000.
Yeah.
All right. It was that bad.
No, it was bad.
Whether or not we learn from these experiences is one thing I'm not so certain about.
I don't think we have, and it was that period was very traumatic.
It was electioneering period.
Yes, but it was very traumatic. I don't know about you, but a lot of households would tell you it was very, very traumatic. That you cannot have access to cash.
Your own money.
Are you kidding me? Yes. It was so traumatic that you could not have access to cash. Like, it was scarce. It was bad way. Like you said, 5,000 naira, 1.5. Some people were saying 5,000 naira, 2,000 naira to collect one. And then you think, what are my options? This is just the only way out. That is the highest extortion that I've ever seen. It was bad way. I don't think most Nigerians have gotten away. I referred to this particular issue 2 days ago. I was telling someone that, remember that time that we did not have cash at a point. It's really, really bad way. For me, transparency, accountability, due process need to be followed. Very important way.
All right. I think we need to also follow our own sort of a due process on the program here this morning. Our guest will be joining us very shortly to help beat some context and insight to these conversations. But we're taking a quick break. When we return, all of that will be in front of you. We're making efforts to connect with guests to discuss the POS issue as quickly as possible. But then we can't forget just in a hurry that there's also the challenge of fuel in front of us now. Last week, not everybody was as fortunate as Jumai to spend about 4 minutes getting fuel at 900 naira per liter. Because now we're hearing that in some states it's still 1,250.
Yes, it
but
is.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves. The POS conversation we're having a while ago is a conversation that is quite a complicated one.
Yes,
right?
it is.
Most of those, let's call them banks, right? Because most of them are microfinance banks that give out these POS terminals. They are regulated by the CBN. They are insured by the SEC, that's the Securities and Exchange Commission. They are basically also insured by the NDIC, right? Which means that anyone to whom they issue a POS has been, if you like, evaluated by them. That's why you have what they call KYC. I know how it was, for example, in 2012, just for me to obtain a debit card, a dollar nominated debit card, right? The officers had to know my house. They had to speak with my landlady. That was how much they wanted to be sure the person they were issuing this card to. That was in 2012, so 12 or so years ago, right? Now, what's the point? The point here is these organizations know the right thing to do. Sometimes maybe there is some sort of laxity on their part, some sort of let's get it done as quickly as possible kind of approach to these issues. Otherwise, it is totally irresponsible by any organization, whether it's a bank, news outlets, or small business, to say, well, we're sorry, we can't track this whole thing.
It's unfortunate.
It's crazy. The money left Mr. A's accounts went into Mr. B's account.
Exactly.
Mr. A shows up and says, hold on a second, that money was not authorized by me. As a matter of fact, I have no knowledge of it. I didn't give my consent to that transaction. And then the bank says, oh, we're sorry, we would have loved to do something about this because we understand your predicament. However, the challenge you are up against is that Mr. B used the
Point of sale.
so we can't trace it. So that is what makes it a very complicated issue. And
Yes, it
one
does.
would think that by now our courts are inundated with litigations around all of these, because Jumai may not want to get to a certain extent in terms of pushing this case. Other people may feel, well, this is one case too many. The earlier we deal with this, the better. And
truly,
like someone once told me, said the U.S. government in some cases is ready to spend $1 million to pursue a crime of $100.
Very true.
The objective at that level is not to recover $100. It is to spend $1 million to make an example, some sort of scapegoat.
Exactly.
You know, establish some sort of deterrence in such a way that every other person who tends to have that propensity to want to embark on such a journey or get involved in such a venture, exactly, sometimes even tries. But again, I think the more you think, the many more times you think, the better for us.
And you know, the good thing about all the example you just gave is accountability. You must give account. Someone must be held responsible for a particular act. You must be held responsible. That's why accountability, transparency is very important, and that is why you always have to compare the, you know, overseas individuals abroad to us here in Nigeria. Nigerians will like, oh, that's how it is. That's what we found ourselves. Where is this? We won't kill ourselves, but that's not how it is. Justice needs to be served. You'll be surprised that's why some foreign investors are scared to come into Nigeria to invest, despite this economic hardship, because they feel that they will be scammed, and the scammers will get away with it if you do not. And the kind of economy we find ourselves, an individual was telling me something, that he is the one that was scammed, yet the individuals in authority are telling him to pay a certain amount to apprehend these scammers. He's like, are you kidding me? I was scammed, because that is how we found ourselves in this country. That is how it works. But for some, it's discouraging in some point, but at the same time, justice needs to be served, and it's very important that one individual needs to be made a scapegoat, and it's not just effort in trying to put all of these things in place. Action. I always say action is very important. For as much as you're making effort, action, so that we will know that, okay, it will serve as a deterrent to other individuals who want to even try this sort of issue. It's just unfortunate. This is where we found ourselves.
I think it's also a reminder for Nigerians to be very weary these days. I remember there was a story about the former governor of Delta State. This was not James Ibori, his successor, former governor Uduaghan. You know, there was a story around how that his phone had been hacked. I mean, that shows you that the sophistication that comes with technology has evolved real fast.
Yes, it has.
For the love of heaven, Uduaghan left office many years ago. As a matter of fact, Uduaghan left office in 2015. So that was almost a decade ago. But while in office as governor of Delta State, his phone was hacked, and the hacker was busy reaching out to his friends. All right? The question is, what was he telling them? You and I can already imagine what that sort of conversation can be. And this is a man as a governor who naturally is expected to be very busy. So he may not even have the time to be responding to some of the inquiries of people who probably wanted to double check to say, Your Excellency, were you the one who made such a request? Are you the one asking me to do X, Y, Z? So a lot of crazy things would have happened in between when the hack happened and when he eventually found out and took measures to quickly forestall, you know, whatever criminal activities the perpetrator may have tried to pull off and all of that. Fast forward to today, Jumai. You're minding your business while you're on the show here or after the program. You get a message on your phone about Facebook sending you a code that you didn't request. Probably I've not even gone to Facebook in weeks. That's number one. Number two is you're doing your thing, minding your business, and somebody reaches out to you on the phone. I mean, via call and says, good morning. I wanted to send my father a recharge card. One thing. I sent it to you in error. You send it back to me. And really, you get a text from the person, a long string of numbers, like in digits. Some people innocently have sent back that recharge card number, as they call it.
I'm telling you.
That thing is not a recharge card number, because this is education for the public. That thing is a hack in itself.
Yes, it is.
Once you send it back, your account is done for.
No, it's gone.
Your WhatsApp is done for.
No, it's gone.
Your Facebook is done for. That's how people come to you and say, my Facebook was hacked. My WhatsApp. I had a boss one time in a former organization who told me he logged into his Facebook one morning, as always, and realized that a Chinese man's picture was hanging there.
How
did a Nigerian man
that's not funny,
suddenly become a Chinese? And the next thing he knows is all his friends are gone. All his friends are now Chinese people, American people, Europeans, all over the place. His name had changed to something else altogether, something Chinese. You know, he took steps again, had to get the IT consultants, the organization, to help him restore the account, and started trying to do house cleaning, you know, and all of that. So what it means is that people must be, yes, you can't know it all. You can't sometimes get ahead of these criminals.
You can't.
But let's do our small bit. Let's help ourselves. If you have information, share with those around you. I had a colleague lastly. I mean, this guy was planning his wedding. This was my senior colleague. Was planning his wedding, right? So a group had been created for him on WhatsApp to say, look, this is the group we used to give him all the support we wanted to coordinate ourselves, give him all the assistance and all of that. The next thing you know is, in between all of these efforts, someone hacked his account. While we're trying to restore his, another colleague's account in my department was hacked. WhatsApp, all two of them. And you know, the thing is, once it happens, Joma, you are perplexed. You are in a fix. You are not in the right frame of mind to know what to do next. I had been at a market where somebody who sells phones and GSM accessories was just receiving debit alerts back to back on his phone. Meanwhile, the customer is standing in front of him. This is in my face, under my nose. It's a Friday evening, and banks are already closing. This was like past 3 to 4, so what does he do? He's trying to bring out his phone. He's feeling his pocket. He's trying to make a move. He doesn't know what to do. Meanwhile, the alerts are just coming. Debits all the way.
Where was his ATM card?
It was, see, you see, you are asking this because your head is balanced. Your head is level. You are in the right frame of mind. At that point, the guy has been thrown off balance. Meanwhile, the guy is not removing his money. The guy is using the account to fund purchase of recharge cards. Because I think he was such that he couldn't remove the money. So it was more like, my people say, okay, this is actually an adage, that a lizard has told itself that if it cannot make the life of an elderly woman, an aged woman, miserable, he would tip her tray of pepper. That way, the elderly woman at her old age will spend the best part of her day trying to pick pepper from the ground. So the guy looks at it and feels, okay, hold on a second, I can't move cash from this account. But what else can I do with it while I have access? Let me be buying recharge card from Meet and Beats. And that's what he was doing the whole time when this guy was getting 5K alert back to back on a Friday, and ran like that until late Friday before he was able to, I think, whether the next morning also block the account and all of that. So we're just saying that you go to the ATM terminal, the gallery, you see instructions there, steps 1 to 4 or to 6, as the case may be. Do this, do this, do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. Sometimes you take all those steps by way of proactive measures, they still don't cut it. But we must continue to be at alert.
Yes, we must continue to be at alert. And at the same time, maybe someone must have seen his PIN.
Possible.
He must have given his ATM to someone
he thought he trusted.
He trusted, and the person must have done a duplicate. It's just that very long number on your ATM. I think we should get a banker here who will come and intimate the public on all of these
dynamics.
It's very important. That very long number you said, like 16. You have to be very careful with that number.
Let me tell you the most dangerous one. It is even the one behind the 3-digit number.
Okay, now let me tell you another.
CVV.
And one of the most dangerous one is when a hacker calls you up and tells you, are you part of this group? We're having a meeting. They try to keep you on the phone for a longer period of time, talking. They are doing a lot of this. So you have to be very sensitive to them. Are you kidding me right now? What group are you talking about? Why don't they send us a message? Like, it's just unfortunate.
Since it's a group, I mean, they should share the message in the group.
Why would you call me individually? Like, are you kidding me? So precautionary measures need to be done. And that is why I commend Corporate Affairs Commission for this. It's very important. Get your point of service machine registered so that we can have a data, we can have something to fall back on. Because really, once these machines are registered bankers will be able to work without any interruptions, without you telling me there is no face behind a POS machine.
Right.
I cannot trace a transaction that happened because definitely from point A to point B, he or she used that. Are you kidding me? The ATM is there, so I'll be able to trace from which account or from who is doing what now. So it's very important that this is done. For me, this is a step in the right direction. Maybe it's in the Pidgin Palace, maybe it's paining me so much because it happened to me.
Because you have a first-hand experience.
Are you kidding me? It's not a pleasant one.
Right.
That's why I'm still talking about it. So it's very important that the needful is done. There is accountability. There is transparency in order for you and I to move forward. And it will give Nigerians rest that, okay, with all of these things happening, whatever these hackers or these fraudsters, whatever their next tactics is, there is a trace and they will be caught. You will not go free.
I think that's the message you should be sending, that there's penalty for this.
Very important.
You can't go scot-free.
No, you will not go scot-free. Unfortunately, you will not go scot-free. So it's very important. This is a step for me. It's a step in the right direction. For others who are genuine, who are trying to start out life, who are trying to make ends meet, well, it's just what we have seen. And the situations on ground when it comes to fraudsters trying to play a fast one on people that have worked really hard for them. You don't even know the story behind the stress that they are going through. Legitimate story that they have decided to, against all odds, to work for this hard money, and someone comes from nowhere and does all of these things. And money you get from that kind of source through
dubious means.
It doesn't even last. It doesn't even last. You will not. You'll be surprised with it. In fact, that's how the person will continue doing this sort of act, and he or she will get caught
and be paraded.
It's just unfortunate.
And Kelama Okere will cover the parade.
He will cover the parade, of course, when it comes to security matters. And so, talking about the fuel issue, I told you said I was going to give my testimony. Yes, which I have, but at the same time, we really, at what cost? I asked you the question. You're like, well, you tried to wiggle around it.
No, because I knew it was going to be a big conversation on the show, so there was no need to get in a hurry unnecessarily. But quite frankly, I think the concern that Nigerians are having now is the Dangote thing is not coming to fruition as expected. Remember, Jumai, let's not forget where we're coming from. This whole postponement of Dangote refinery takeoff started July of 2023.
Yes, it did.
It's already 1 year and counting. This is September of another year, right? A year and 2 months. It's a long time.
It is.
So if marketers are now saying that, look, we do not understand anymore what is happening with the talk between the NNPCL and Dangote refinery, therefore, we are taking our own business destiny, so to speak, in our hands. We want to resort to import. So be it. Because whether you like it or not, yes, we can cry all we want, we can complain and feel bad about the price. But the question is, don't Nigerians deserve to have fuel, something they are so blessed with in enormity? We have crude. You may say, yes, we don't refine, but that's not the fault of Nigerians that we don't refine. It's bad leadership that got us to this point. We must put it as it is. So if we do not refine the crude that is in our backyard, as it were, you can't blame that on Nigerians. However, you must also cut Nigerians the slack that they deserve to have fuel. So if marketers now say we want to resort to import, let's do that in the interim until the Dangote refinery eventually takes off full-fledged and is on the road full throttle. Because whether you like it or not, you can realize, we can all see now that there are hitches in between. The public hearing that was planned by the National Assembly has been postponed indefinitely. Now, we don't even know for what dates it has been rescheduled for. And it will appear until those teething problems are resolved, this refinery will not move on. That's the fact. The refinery has now become more like a government establishment. Somebody jokingly asked, Carman asked me last week, he said, are we sure the government is not going to take over this refinery ultimately? It sounds like something we should joke about, try to crack ourselves up over. But the question is that not what it's becoming like now? Because in the heat of frustration, the man has said about a month or 3 weeks ago even that, look, NNPC should take over the refinery. They should buy it over. Because if you won't allow me operate it, if you won't allow the facility take off, of what use is it? Right?
I remember you mentioned about the cabal being behind all of these things. But hopefully, I think we need to give Dangote all the support we need. This is the first of its kind in a very long time.
On the continent.
On the continent, that someone has actually stepped up to actually produce when it comes to petrol and fuel. Kudos to him. It's kudos on our side as Nigerians, but it's just unfortunate where we find ourselves and the individuals that are behind all of these things that do not want this particular sector to grow and to move forward, when you know that it has to do with individuals. You and I on a daily, we need fuel. You might say, I do not have a car, but do you know where it hits you when it comes to commodity, when it comes to transportation, when it comes to housing? They would tell you to build a house, like your landlord now, he will definitely increase his rent. He will tell you, do you know how much I paid to get the materials to build this particular? It affects us in one way or the other. You and I, whether you have a car or not, people think because you have a car, you fuel your car and you go to wherever you want to, but no, when it comes to your daily life, social amenities, when it comes to everything encompassed, it revolves and all around it. So it's very important that we take this very seriously, and we hopefully the needful is done as soon as possible, because really the hardship is really biting really hard. Commend the efforts of this present administration for the effort. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has shown that he has empathy when it comes to what Nigerians are facing, but it's effort he is making, and this present administration, we need action. I keep saying it. Action is very important.
As most marketers are told in the banking sector, we do not reward efforts. We reward results.
Very important. Very important.
I think that's a good place to leave it this morning.
Exactly.
Jumai has set the perspective very straight, and the obvious is in front of us right now.
Yes, it is.
Tomorrow is another day. Of course, the conversations will continue here on Global Morning. I'm Uyag Mofwebe.
And I am Jumai Manson. Thank you all so much for being a part of the program. Bye-bye.
Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call a police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from.
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
We struggled, we had to strike.
The Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.